But Ivan, this is for you. Speaking of schools and all, don't take this the wrong way. I love you, brother. But I'm so glad you taught at Winchester, not at Randolph Southern. Because if I'd have had you for a teacher, I'd think my life would have been pretty rough. But a few years later, I went to the library, and I got a book out, and I actually read it. And that book was on the 12 disciples. And that's what I want to talk about today, is the 12 disciples. And I'm not sure who the author was, but I hope the information that I'm going to give you, the facts are true. I hope. And I don't know where he got his information. But anyway, we know that when Jesus began his ministry, he was baptized by John and then he was tempted by Satan. Then he was ready to go to work. So he needed 12 men to help him out in his work and to get started with his job. So if you'll put up my first scriptures up here, Kevin. This is Matthew 4, verses 18 through 22. And it says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon and Peter, and his brother Andrew, and they were casting a net to the lake, where they were fishing. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in the boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. So Andrew, Peter, James, and John, they were the first disciples Jesus chose. And they all knew Jesus. They had heard him speak before. But Andrew, of course, as I said, they were fishermen. He was a small man, brother of Peter, as we know, 22 years old. And he was preparing to go fishing. Heard a voice say, hey, come follow me. Heard no footsteps. Before he turned around, he knew it was Jesus. He stood there speechless. But on the night that Jesus was arrested, Peter panicked. He was frightened. He feared for his life, as many of the disciples did. Took off running. He ran so hard through the bushes and the briars and the thickets that cut himself all up, was bleeding. And as he finally ran out of breath, he had to stop and thought, what am I doing? Why did I run? Peter, 25 years old, muscular, big man. He was married, had a family. And he had the title of being the best fisherman in Galilee. Outspoken, of course, he would speak before he would think. Later on, he would be the leader of the group of 12. And this was because of the force of his personality and because he assumed responsibility. And Jesus asked him to be a disciple. Peter says, I'm a fisherman. I know nothing else. But to be a disciple, he would have to leave everything behind, his family and his job. But after Peter accepted to be a disciple, Jesus told him it would be his responsibility to carry out Jesus' work when he was no longer around. Peter said that's too much of a burden to carry. Of course, we all know Peter's famous for denying Jesus 3 times. And after that night, he denied him. He went back to the upper room. He was disgusted and bitter and ashamed of his own weakness. John, of course, fisherman, brother James, he was a tall, thin man. They called him the thinker. Very close to his brother James, but he had a bad temper that he had inherited from his father. But he learned to control it. And Jesus got on him about it different times. And John, he didn't mind the fishing, but he didn't like mending the nets. But that's something they had to do on a daily basis, because if there was a little tear in the net, if they didn't repair them, you know what's going to happen when they had a successful day of fishing. They pull the nets in, well, there goes all the fish. James, short man, had broad shoulders. You wouldn't know James and John were brothers if you'd seen them together. But they had a very successful fishing business, Zebedee and his 2 sons. And a lot of people depended on them to provide fish for them. And when Zebedee learned that James and John was going to be disciples for Jesus, he got very angry. He got upset. He was mad. But their mother encouraged them to go be disciples. I believe her name is Salome. She told Zebedee, well, you can go hire a couple other people to take your son's place. That's not what he wanted to hear. And he kept complaining about his son's leaving. And she told him to hold your tongue and to say no more. Typical woman, huh? Guys, the saying goes, some things will never change. Women are still boss, aren't they? There's just no way getting around it. Men, I got a question for you. I don't want you to think about this. You don't have to speak up. Put your place in of either Peter, Andrew, James, and John. Just think about this. And if it had been you the day out there in the Sea of Galilee getting ready to go fishing, if Jesus would have called you, would you have went? Would you left your family, your job, to go be a disciple for Jesus? I gave this talk a few years back to this Spartanburg Christian church. And I asked the men in that church the same question. I had a guy speak up and said, yes, I would go. I thought he was kidding. He's about as far away from Joel as me. And I looked at him. I could see on his face he was serious. He said, yes, I would go be a disciple for Jesus. And his wife was sitting beside him. And she had a big smile on her face. And she was nodding her head saying, yes, I know he would go because he loves Jesus that much. Matthew, tax collector. According to my source here, the book, he was an honest man, which is very uncommon. Tax collector, they was notorious for taking more than what they were supposed to do from their own pocket. But he had a good job. Matthew had a nice home, but he had very few friends. He wasn't popular because people didn't like tax collectors then. We still don't like them, do we? But he was a lonely man, had an unsatisfying life. Something was missing. And I think all of us know people that way today. It seems like they have everything, but yet they're not happy. Something's missing in their life as well. But they would collect taxes on goods in the caravans which came through Capernaum. And Matthew would only charge what was due. Some collectors would charge more. And if they had silk, which was a very precious commodity then, they would take that silk, and then the collectors would, and then resell it, put the money in their own pocket. Peter had a hard time accepting Matthew as a disciple because they had little love for a Jew who worked for the Roman government. But when Jesus asked Matthew to be a disciple, he left immediately. Glad to leave that job. He prepared a meal for the 5 that were chosen so far in Jesus, and he invited all these tax collector friends in, and he's false to tell them he was going to be a disciple. They all thought he was crazy. But when Matthew left his tax collecting booth, he would be unemployed. What if it didn't work out for him? What was he going to do then? The other disciples, if it didn't work for them, they could go back to fishing. So there was no turning back for Matthew. Philip worked in a shop that made sails for fishing boats. But he was a fisherman till he had a boating accident. And they would do a lot of fishing at night. Of course, they fished in the Sea of Galilee, and storms could brew up instantly without warning. Of course, they didn't have radar and things back then. And the reason that the storms could come up quickly is the difference in temperatures between the seacoast and the mountains beyond. The Sea of Galilee lies 680 feet below sea level. It's bounded by hills, especially on the east side, where they reach 2,000 feet high. In these heights, the air is cool and dry. And directly around the sea, the climate is semi-tropical with warm, moist air. And the large difference in the height between the surrounding land and the sea causes temperatures and pressures to change, with the result of the storms coming up quickly. And when the air masses meet, like I say, the storms come quickly, the small boats are caught out there. They are in grave danger. But one night, Philip was out fishing with his dad, and a storm came up. and their little boat was tossed back and forth. You can just picture in your mind that happening. His father fell overboard, and he was trying to rescue his father. And they must have been close to the coastal line with a big boulder. The boat crashed up against the boulder, and as he was trying to pull his dad in, it crushed his hand. It mangled him so bad he wasn't able to be a fisherman anymore. But one day, Philip got to hear Jesus preach. And after Jesus had finished, he told Philip, I want you to be in my company. And Philip says, I'm a plain man and a poor man. What do you want with me? It's kind of the people Jesus chose, wasn't it? The plain, the poor. He said, I see you in the crowds, you listen, and by your eyes I can see that you heard and believed. I need you in my company. But Philip was taught to worry about his food and clothes. That's all he ever did, was worry about those kind of things. And Philip considered himself the least of the 12 disciples. Bartholomew, he worked in his father's vineyards. Those vineyards grew well on the hilly, stony soil. It was one of the best vineyards in Canaan. He would go out early in the morning, which was the best time to work in the vineyards. Philip brought Bartholomew to Jesus. Bartholomew did a very good job spreading the gospel, but was more eloquent, better speaker than Philip. And he went everywhere talking with people as they worked the fields and vineyards. Next, we have Judas. What else can we say about Judas that we don't already know? But he worked in a shop curing hides and made stirrup straps for saddles. He was a man who could not find himself, not a good worker, had a bad attitude about his job. And he would leave from job to job, travel town to town, to just get a job long enough to get food and supplies and move on. Finally, one day he went to Capernaum, where Jesus was. Andrew told him about Jesus. He said Jesus wanted to talk to him. Judas was the last disciple chosen. And he felt by being last that he was the least, low man on the totem pole. Jealous of Peter because he thought Peter got special attention. Judas was the treasurer for the disciples. You'd think it had been Matthew, but it was Judas. All the time taking money out of the funds for his own personal use. Next scriptures, please. And this tells you exactly how Judas is. And this was after Jesus had raised Lazarus from the dead. Of course, Lazarus, Mary, and Martha were very good, close friends of Jesus. Then Mary took out a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of the disciples, Judas, who later would betray Jesus, objected. Why wasn't that perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to use it for himself and what was put into it. So you see, there's the kind of man Judas was. And when he took the 30 pieces of silver the night that he betrayed Jesus, he didn't think he'd done anything wrong. He had seen Jesus perform many miracles and thought he would save himself. But it didn't work this time. Of course, we know after he realized what he had done, he took his own life. Thomas, the carpenter, very good craftsman, had a twin brother. They were very close, played together, got along well. Till the age of 12, his brother took sick with a high fever. His mother would put a damp cloth on his head and try to bring the fever down, but the next day his brother died. His mother told him that was God's will, but Thomas had a hard time accepting this. One day, Andrew and Thomas, they were good friends. They went to Judea to listen to John the Baptist preach. And while there, Andrew was telling Thomas about Jesus. Andrew took Thomas to Jesus, and he just poured his heart out to him about losing his brother. How he had a hard time accepting his death. With tears in his eyes, he told Jesus, I have not truly loved God these many years after his brother's death. In my heart, there was always this feeling of resentment because my brother was taken from me. He said, my mother tried to console me, said it was God's will. He said, in my heart, there's always been a certain anger that smoldered there. But evidently, after this, Thomas looked up and seen Jesus. And he says, I can see what they say is true. You are the chosen one. I feel like at that time, Thomas could feel the love and the compassion that Jesus showed. And he just felt the closeness. He thought, I've got to be with this man. But on the night that Jesus was arrested, Thomas, he left town too, but not because he feared for his life. The rest of the disciples ran away. But he thought, well, they arrested Jesus, they're going to crucify him, it's over, it's finished. There's nothing left. So he left Jerusalem. Went to Jericho. There's this young boy sitting alongside the road. You can just picture this. He was crying. Thomas went to him. He says, what's going on? What's wrong? He says, I broke my crutch and I cannot walk. He says, I'm lame. He says, I need some help. So Thomas picked the little boy up, took him to a carpenter's shop, and he used the tools and some wood and put together another crutch for this little boy. And all the time he was working on this crutch, he had this little voice inside his head telling him, hey, go back to Jerusalem. He wasn't sure why, but he went back, met with the other disciples. Of course, Thomas is famous for telling us that until I see the nail prints in Jesus' hand and the pierce in his side, I'm not going to believe it. This is actually Jesus. James the Less, also called Little James. Very small man, wasn't even 5 feet tall. He was a potter, made clay pots and jugs and lamps. Always had a dream of being a fisherman, but just didn't feel like he was big enough and strong enough. Whenever he would go into town, he would sell his pottery, and he would stop along the Sea of Galilee and watch all the fishing boats out there. James introduced James the Less to Jesus. He never heard Jesus speak, but he'd heard about him. But one day, James the Less became a big man. His 3-year-old niece, Hannah, fell into a well. It wasn't very wide, but it was deep. Somebody had to rescue Hannah. It was James. He was the only small enough person to fit down that well. So he tied a rope around the donkey's neck and around his feet. Head first he goes. I wouldn't want to be doing this, but it has to be done. And it was just hardly big enough for James to get his shoulders and arms down through there. Scraped, bloody. It was tight. But he made it down there. He put a sling around his neck to put Hannah in that sling when they go to pull him back out. When they pulled James back out, he was unconscious. Hannah was fine. She was bruised and crying, but he was okay. As I said, James was unconscious, and his shoulders were rubbed raw. They were bleeding. When he awakened, they told him that Hannah was well. That you've done a great job. Jesus told him, James, you're a big man today. He says, I need you to be one of my 12. They told him when he was well enough to join him in Capernaum. Even though every bone and muscle in James' body ached, he never felt so well. Simon Zealot, giant of a man, worked in his father's shop. They made shoes, sandals, and repaired sandals because a lot of their customers were poor and they couldn't afford to buy new sandals. So they had their old ones repaired. And he was always bigger than the other children, and they taunted him, made fun of him his whole life. But one day a Roman soldier brought his sandals to his father's shop to be repaired. His father told the soldier, I'll have them ready for you next day at noon. Well, that night the soldier came back drunk, wanting his sandals. And in his drunken rage, he knocked his father down. He hit his head on the corner table. His father died from his injuries. So Simon, put his hands around the soldier's neck, killed him. From then on, Simon hated Roman soldiers. After this, Simon joined a group of men whose aim was to free their land of Roman rule. The leader of the group was named Barabbas. Does that name ring a bell? It should. It's the man that Pilate set free, Jesus' crucifixion. Barabbas and company was going to attack a group of 10 soldiers that night. As they camped, things didn't go as they planned. They lost 4 of their group and got 4 Roman soldiers. Simon and Barabbas almost lost their lives that night. Simon told Barabbas, "I'm done. I'm not going to kill anymore." Took his sword and broke across his knee and said, "That's it. I'm out here." Simon was in the crowd one day where Jesus was speaking, and every word went straight to Simon's heart. Everything had meaning to Simon. And after Jesus had finished talking, he told Andrew, once again, he brought a lot of the guys together. He says, "I need to talk to Jesus. I need to speak with him." So he goes and tells his whole life story, poured out his heart, confessing what he had done, and the burden that he had been carrying for such a long time. And he was sorry about the life that he had taken. And Jesus told him, "Or else you are forgiven." He said, "God loves you and so do I." He said, "I want you to be a part of my 12. And this is the guy I like, Thaddeus. We don't hear much about these guys. First 4, Peter, Andrew, we hear about them. But Thaddeus was 10 years old. Helped his uncle herd sheep. His uncle had a flock of about 500 sheep, and Thaddeus liked to hear the stories that they told while he was out watching their sheep. And his uncle taught Thaddeus how to make a whistle out of willow bark. And the whistle was made with square holes instead of round. And they would blow the whistle to warn the shepherds if their sheep began to stray, or if wolves were coming after their sheep. One night they saw a bright star in the east. His uncle, Thaddeus, and 2 other shepherds they took 3 lambs. The bright star was over where Jesus was born. They left the 3 lambs, and Thaddeus left his whistle. Now, Thaddeus was in his 40s. He'd taken over his uncle's herd since he had passed away, and the hills above Capernaum were lush and green with grass. Thaddeus was able to graze his sheep near the city. And he was popular with the kids. He told them stories about being a shepherd and make the children's whistles, and taught them how to play tunes. But the only thing Thaddeus didn't like is being a shepherd when he had to move the sheep to a higher elevation. He got very lonely and he missed the children. One day, Thaddeus saw a tall man coming toward him, one he'd never seen before. He said, "I should know this guy." And Jesus told him, he says, "Once, long ago, you gave me a whistle. I lost it like all the boys lose things. Would you make me a new whistle?" Thaddeus always referred to Jesus as the little king. He said, "The whistle is all I have to give." And he wanted to ask Jesus, "Can I be a part of your company?" But he wasn't sure he should. But he said, "I want to be one of your 12. So Thaddeus made number 12, the disciples. The life of the disciples wasn't easy. We know that. After Jesus left this earth, they were ridiculed, persecuted, and even put to death for preaching the gospel. Some people would accept it, others would not. Those who wouldn't accept the word had the disciples put to death. Now Jesus has all these disciples together. He's their teacher. And I consider them at this point, they're just beginning to get together and know one another, get to work as students. Well, if you don't like the word students, an intern in training, however you want to do it. But they had to learn to get together, or get along together. Jesus would mold them, I feel like shape them to do what their job was to be. But they were good students. As we see, Peter, he didn't like Matthew. Judas didn't like Peter. Simon Zealot looked the way they were. I'm sure it was an easy job for Jesus to teach them to fish for the souls of men, what he told Peter and Andrew, to help others find God. That's what it was all about. That was his mission. And they saw Jesus do many miracles while they was with him for those 3 years. Changing the water into wine, raised Lazarus from the dead, 5,000, feeding the 5,000 with 2 loaves of bread, 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish rather. But after Jesus died, I feel like that's when the disciples, or 12, became disciples instead of students. They kind of graduated. They had to, because Jesus wasn't going to be with them much longer. When we, in our own personal lives, when we become a Christian, I feel like we are students. We have to learn to be more like Christ, have a deeper relationship with him. Then we get to church, we read the Bible, have a daily devotional. We get stronger in our faith. It takes a while for us to do that. It's kind of a gradual progression. And then that's when we become a disciple. But if we practice Christ's teachings and share the gospel with others, we will be able to draw those around us to Christ, like a fisherman who pulls fish into boats with nets. I asked you earlier, are you a good disciple for Jesus? Can we do better as a disciple? Only you can answer that. But my answer is yes. Scott's always telling us we are Jesus' hand and feet. Go and make disciples of all nations. A lot of work to do. You know, it says on those doors out there, you are now entering the mission field. The way I see it, there's a lot of lost sheep out there that need to be brought to the Good Shepherd to have a relationship with him. As I started out, I told you I wasn't book smart. That's not going to change. But I was smart about one thing. And, well, my wife would say I was smart about 2 things. That one is marrying her, which she's right, which tomorrow, dear heart, happy 41st anniversary. But the thing that I was smart about, putting Christ in my life and having a relationship with him and knowing that he loves me and I love him. I wouldn't be up here doing this if he wasn't in my life. I wouldn't and I couldn't do it. But the Lord has blessed me with so much. It's been so good. You guys feel the same way. Let's pray. Father, I just thank you for this day, for this opportunity we can come together in your house. You are so good to us, and I know we don't tell you enough. We thank you for the many blessings. As our closing song says today, you are a good, good Father. That's who you are. We just ask a blessing on those that are hurting today, that are sick, and those that have lost loved ones. Just wrap your loving arms around them. Let them know that you are there. Just comfort, protect them. Be with us this next week as we go out and help us to be better disciples for you. because we know there's a lot of work to be done. We just need to bring the wandering ones to you, Lord, because you love us so much. And thank you for preaching. Amen.
Thousand stories of love in your life, tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm alone. You're a good God to me, Lord, to me, Lord, to me, Lord. I'm loved by you, to my end, to my end, to my end. I've seen many searching for answers, far and wide, but I know you're all searching for answers. Only you provide, because you know just what we need before we say a word. You're good to you all, to you all, to you all, and I'm loved by you. To my end, to my end, to my end, you're a good Father. To you all, to you all, to you all, and I'm loved by you. To my end, to my end, to my end. You are perfect in all of your ways. 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 You are love so undeniable. I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable. I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love and your good Father. To you are, to you are, to you are, and I'm loved by you. To my end, to my end, to my end, you're good Father. To you are, to you are, to you are, and I'm loved by you. To my end, to my end, to my end. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. To love. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways.
we just thank you that we can come and just worship you and spend time with you this morning. Help us to follow you more and more each day. To continue to learn from you and learn what we need to hear. To see the experiences in life as ways to learn and to grow. Father, you are a good, good Father. We are loved by you. We thank you for that truth. In Jesus' name,
Great job. Thanks. Close out of this thing. I like the stop button on